We're going to take a look now at the economic benefits for a city when it hosts an event such as this Taylor Swift Eras Tour. It's said to be the highest grossing concert tour in history, opening Toronto tonight. There's going to be 9 shows between this city and Vancouver. Well, what is the actual economic impact on these communities? We're joined by Cheryl Saldanha, Assistant Vice President of Global Sovereign Ratings at Morningstar DBRS. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Just start off by giving us an idea. How big is this tour?
So this is actually the biggest concert tour of all time. This was the first concert tour to cross the $1 billion threshold in terms of revenues raised. By the end of 2024, it's actually expected to have raised $2.2 billion worldwide, and it's expected to have contributed over $5 billion in U.S. consumer spending.
Your analysis finds that partly because tourism is not a huge part of Toronto's economy. It is a bit bigger for Vancouver, but only 1% and 3% respectively. That's very low, I think.
Yes. So when we take a look at the City of Toronto is expecting that the direct spending impact from all of the spending that fans will be doing around the concert, the direct spending impact is going to be around $152 million, and the total economic impact is going to be about $282 million. And so when you take a look at the total tourism spending that happened in 2023, this is only going to form 2% of the total spending that occurred last year for all of tourists in Toronto.
Oh, sorry. So give me that again. So the spending from the Taylor Swift events will be only what, about 1% of total tourism spending in Toronto?
Tourism spending in Toronto. And then if you look at just major conferences and events that happened last year, it'll be a third. So it is quite remarkable. But when you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture and you realize that GDP is tourism only forms less than 5% for both cities of GDP, it's quite a small impact.
Right, but it's a reasonable chunk. I'm getting a bit confused with the numbers here. What's the 1% and 3% again?
So the 1%, tourism formed 1% of Toronto's GDP and 3% of Vancouver's GDP.
Right, so it's an appreciable chunk of the total tourism spending, but it's not all that big.
Exactly, yes, in the big picture.
And the benefits are fleeting in actual hard dollar terms?
Exactly, yes. So, when we look at the fiscal impact on the cities, the City of Toronto is estimating, for example, that about $40 million will be raised in tax revenues across all 3 levels of government. So when you take a look back at the taxes, most of this is going to be in the form of sales tax through the HST or income tax generated by employees who work in these affected sectors like hospitality or food services. And so the municipalities, they'll see some benefits from this through, the municipal accommodations tax for hotels or short-term rentals, parking revenues, transit. And so, for example, when you look at hotels across the city right now, they've been sold out for months.
Right.
And Toronto hotels are, the prices are ranging between 2 to 3 times more expensive than a normal non-concert weekend in November. And Vancouver, it's been 5 to 7 times more expensive. So the municipalities, they'll see a little bit of a bump from this, but it's going to be, I think the federal government and the provincial government who get to capture most of that tax revenue. So when we look at the overall impact, I'm calling it more of a lover than a love story for Toronto and Vancouver.
A fleeting,
short-term benefit, but not a long-term sustainable benefit.
Yeah, I see one Toronto councillor actually has an op-ed in the Toronto Star saying, the city doesn't get that much out of this in terms of tax revenue.
Yeah.
I guess there's these intangible benefits. I'm always skeptical about those. Oh, it'll put us on the map.
Yes.
It's hard to weigh something like that.
Absolutely, yes. So we would hope so.
Yeah, well, I suppose we are expecting thousands of people. Some may fall in love with Toronto and come back.
Definitely, yes. And I think over 30 million people signed up to try to get tickets just for the Toronto shows. And so there's all these extra events that are happening around the city right now. The tailgate party at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. There's Taylor Swift themed trivia. So I think we can expect to see a lot of people who, they didn't get tickets, but they want to be part of this experience and the hype. So you'll see spending and engagement from them as well. Are
you going to any of the shows, Cheryl?
I'm not one of the lucky ones.
No. No. Well, Taylor will probably have me there backstage. We're pretty tight. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.